Good morning, everyone. I'm Mike Hayes, Chair of the State Transportation Commission. Commissioners Brown and Turner are here on my left. Commissioner Schultz ran into, we're not going to blame it on highway construction delays, but for some reason she's running a little late. And so we'll give her a few minutes to get here. It means we do not have a quorum until she gets here. So we won't conduct any of the official business until Commissioner Schultz arrives. But we'll kind of do a little adjusting here of the schedule. But I would like to take the liberty as chair to recognize Laura Mester, who she and I have been in these trenches with MDOT for just about the same amount of time. I think maybe the year before I was appointed, you started. But Laura's going to retire after, 15 years with the department, 32 years with the state of Michigan. And she's always been a fun and delightful person to work with. And you will very much be missed, but I personally want to wish you all the best in your retirement. You've earned it. Go out there and have fun.
I will. Thank you so much.
You bet. So let's move ahead in the agenda, and we'll go down to the presentations and ask Amy Matisoff if she would take care of the Tribal Affairs Annual Report item while we're waiting for Commissioner Schultz. Amy?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. So I'm going to try my best to make it through. So I'm Amy Matisoff, Deputy Director of Public Affairs. Oh, good Lord. Deputy Director of Public Affairs for Policy and Government Relations, and still acting as MDOT's Tribal Liaison. So I wanted to give you an annual report of the actions that took place through the Tribal Affairs program over the last year. November is Native American Heritage Month, so we always take time this month to recognize these lands that we stand on today are the ancestral territories of the Anishinaabe, who have lived in the state of Michigan from before recorded history to present day. And rather than me talking a whole lot, I was hoping and hope that this video will work. We'll see. I don't know if we were prepared for online videos, but we'll see if I can get this to share the sound here.
There are 574 federally recognized tribal nations that share geography with the United States of America. Did you know that each of those nations has its own unique system of government? A tribe's sovereignty allows them to decide for themselves how to govern their nations. Tribes have their own constitutions, which outline how their governments work and how they work with the U.S. federal government. Some tribal constitutions provide for 3 branches of government. Others create councils made up of all eligible adult tribal citizens. No 2 tribal governments are the same. We know that all tribal governments are unique, but all tribal governments create and enforce laws. They all have the ability to tax their citizens and non-citizens living within their borders. Tribal governments serve both their citizens and non-citizens, just like other governments do. For example, many tribal governments have their own police departments, court systems, and first responder services. Tribal governments also meet critical needs in their communities by managing natural resources and providing health care and education. In order to maximize the value of the services they provide, tribal governments work with local, state, federal, and other tribal governments. And tribal governments innovate. From installing solar panels to connecting area homes with high-speed internet, tribal governments oftentimes lead the way in their local communities. The more tribes govern themselves, the more likely they are to prosper. That's because tribes know best what their citizens need.
Okay, thank you. That worked better than I expected. So, I just wanted to share that video just to kind of give you a set the foundation kind of for the work that we do in the Tribal Affairs program. Within the transportation world, we set our work in the Tribal Affairs program with federal laws that are listed here that are in the Constitution, as well as several that you probably are aware of, namely the Section 106 portion of the National Historic Preservation Act. FHWA works as the federal protector of tribal interests and works directly with the Department of Transportation when it comes to tribal consultation. In addition, the state of Michigan has had an accord signed with many tribes within the state of Michigan since 2002. And recently, in 2019, the governor signed an executive directive enhancing how each state department works with tribal governments here in Michigan. And as you may have noticed, we just updated our tribal affairs policy at our last meeting in July, and it was previously approved in 2020. So some very quick highlights of what we did in 2025. FHWA and Michigan Department of Transportation updated our programmatic agreement related to Section 106 in 2022. And by way of doing that, we've upped our work with tribal communities in the world of Section 106 and tribal historic preservation, working with our local road agencies to help make sure that those processes are being met. We've uploaded and have a live tribal coordination portal now that is fully operational, so the tribes can actually go in and give us comments and concerns about projects that we're undertaking and let us know if there's any feedback that we need that is held confidentially within our Section 106 programmatic agreement. I myself and others working with me have been engaged and remain engaged with the United Tribes of Michigan, as well as working with our partners at the Little Traverse Bay Bands of Odawa Indians. We created some interpretive signage to be displayed at the Gordie Howe International Bridge Welcome Center and Plaza there to let folks know kind of the tribal history that's associated with the Detroit area and the river and the waterways in that space. So that was a really remarkable kind of partnership between the United States, Canada, and the tribal nations here in Michigan. Regional coordination has taken place across the state. Each one of MDOT's regions has folks that work in the TSEs and the region offices that coordinate with tribal governments across their areas. A lot of those meetings happen in the rural elected officials meetings, and then if there's consultation that's needed, our region folks will coordinate that through me, and then we will hold individual meetings as needed. Looking forward, the tribal liaison, currently myself, will continue to plan and hold our next intergovernmental summit in 2026. We've had a little bit of a delay on that with transitions in roles and different things, but that intergovernmental summit is actually a meeting between MDOT, our local MPOs, FHWA, Bureau of Indian Affairs, all 12 tribal nations here in the state, and then anyone else who's interested in that transportation connection between what we do and what the other sovereigns perform here in the state of Michigan related to transportation. As you may have heard the director talk about a couple times, we're also in the process of updating our strategic plan, and this includes updating our mission, vision, and goals. And so by way of updating those, we will also work through updating our tribal affairs guidelines to make sure that those align with our updated strategic plan. Our environmental services section are continuing to integrate tribal forums and different forms into our GIS system to make sure that we're planning our projects accordingly. And I will continue to keep providing ongoing education and support for MDOT staff to make sure that they're appropriately navigating communications and coordination with the sovereign units of government here in the state of Michigan. So I would just like to say miigwech and thank you all for your time and attention to this. There's a much more detailed packet of information from the Tribal Affairs Annual Report that you see in your packet that we provide the governor's office every year. So that kind of details out most of the work that took place in the last year. This is just a very, very brief overview of that work. So are there any questions from anyone?
Any questions of Amy? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank
Amy.
you.
Thanks for all the work you do there. If we could impose then on the Michigan Public Transportation Association Transit Planning and Funding report. John, would you like to join us up front? Appreciate your being willing to adjust.
I'm gonna fix this for you while we get going here, so you can make it work. There we go. There you go. Thanks.
Good morning. All right. Thank you so much very much for having me. My name is John Delmas. I'm the director of the Michigan Public Transit Association, and I've been with the MPTA for about 15 months, and would like to share a little bit about funding in the wake, especially of the recent transportation funding package and the budget, provide some education and maybe some direction in this area. But this is my first time at the STC, so it's always a joy to learn all of what's going on within Michigan transportation.
Well, welcome.
So just for background, folks may be aware, we actually have public transportation services in all of Michigan's 83 counties. There are about 80 local agencies and authorities and other providers. MDOT, of course, does not provide any transit services themselves. Service does vary widely across the state. There are entirely unique geographies, hours, services, fares. If you've seen one transit agency, you know that one and that one alone. In 2024, statewide ridership was about 47 million rides or unique trips. Local transit services, the budgets are approximately 1/3 each federal, state, and local sources. That is a generalization, but pretty rough. The local transit funding can come from general funds, millages, rider fares, or service contracts. And indeed, we had 3 millages on the ballot on Tuesday. But I want to speak to specifically state local bus operating, which is a tremendous asset that Michigan has and very important in the conversation of the budget. It is part of Act 51, the CTF, which I'm sure you're all aware. And excuse me, revenues are distributed according to a formula. And per law, there is 2 categories of agencies: larger urban agencies like CATA or SMART or DDOT that would receive up to 50% of their operating expenses in a given year, or 60% for rural agencies to account for a little bit higher cost ratios there. And it is distributed proportionally based on the available funding. So when funding is short, agencies still receive the same proportional amount, but it is limited at what's available, and that's the rub. As you know, the revenues that come in are not enough to keep up with the needs and the expenses going out. But LBO has been extremely successful in the decades of incentivizing and supporting rural transit, in particular in Michigan. We are blessed to have rural transit in many areas of our state. But over the years, this is a chart some of our partners have developed. The transit funding has grown at less than half the rate of overall inflation and less than 1/3 the rate of road funding. So we are certainly supportive of funding for roads and bridges. We know that's an extremely huge issue for our state. We also want to educate the fact that road transit funding has actually been quite a bit less than that over the years. Excuse me. And what this chart illustrates is that the LBO amount for the current year now is at $271 million. We'll explain that kind of keeps us level in terms of the percentage that agency budgets can come from the state of Michigan reimbursement. Whereas if we were at the fully funded level, that would actually be $450 million. So almost double would be needed to reach the levels that we saw in the late 90s for state reimbursement. And the funds over the years can be diluted by increasing expenses at the local level as their cost grows, we know. Service growth in many areas, we've seen agencies expand and provide additional services, and then new services come online, such as the Q line in Detroit. And I should have, just for context, we're talking buses in almost every county in the Michigan. We do have the Q line, a people mover that run on rails, and there are 4 ferry services in Michigan that receive transit funding and are considered part of public transportation. But again, just the funding over the years has stagnated and not been to the point where it's needed. We will say we're very appreciative and very thankful. The current budget and the road funding package provided a $45 million immediate budget increase, and that will maintain the LBO reimbursement rates for fiscal year 2026 and really help avoid local service cuts, which we were fearing and expecting across the state. And also, on top of that, there's a $100 million boost for 5 years from the new Neighborhood Roads Fund. So if you're looking and looking at where the funding is coming now for roads and bridges, we have a new structure that's been set up under Act 51. And of that, there's $35 million for operating support, $65 million for some potential new projects, which could be bus rapid transit, express buses, commuter rail, and other projects. So in terms of Michigan's transit funding, this is extremely significant. But if you look elsewhere and you look at what the real needs are, this is still a drop in the bucket. I would note that our competing regions like Columbus, Indianapolis, Nashville are investing billions. And on Tuesday, the biggest measure in the city of Charlotte, which is about a third of the size of the Metro Detroit regional area, they approved a measure that's $20 billion over 30 years. So what we are spending and what we have on the table now is still nowhere near what kind of our competitor regions are putting into it. So our interest and our concern is just to maintain our current services for the next 5 or 10 years. If transportation funding is only done about once a decade, we all kind of are familiar with what has to come together to make that happen. Our agencies need to plan for long-term services, provide for labor agreements that can attract and retain their workers, determine their millage rates of what they're going to ask for the local contribution and all those things. We do expect we're going to need about 25 to 35 million each year just to kind of keep up with what we have for current services so we don't lose those. And rural areas and those without millages are most at risk. We do have some areas that operate without the local millage, and more politically that's very difficult to achieve. And the state funding has made that service in that area possible. So that's our interest. How do we know if funding is sufficient, even based on what services could be? We know that Michigan is an aging population and new and increased transit services are needed across our state. What level of services are that? That's a conversation that really happens at the local level. So what is the role of MDOT, the STC, the legislature, and governor in helping to determine those? And of course, what will they cost? That's the biggest question. So what I want to speak to, and just again, thank you for your time and your work on things like the 2045 long-range plan, the 5-year programs. We do believe there should be a deeper evaluation of funding adequacy. I believe in looking at the draft and be interested to review what's approved, of course, today. There is a goal to preserve local bus operating for transit to maintain current services, and we appreciate that. Again, that's the starting point for us. I would note that the Office of Passenger Transportation is working on a statewide transit plan, which we understand has never been quite done to this extent, and it would integrate all of the state, regional, and local transit plans. So it is extremely significant to look at pieces like the RTA in Southeast Michigan and what they could do in that area. But beyond that, to Grand Rapids, Kalamazoo, Clare County, the UP, what does transit look like in those areas? What is the statewide funding needs? I'll go back to the fact that LBO is one shared pot across the state of Michigan. It is not a formula that allocates based on population or service. It's the budget that is being spent. So in some ways, if we do have growth in some areas, that does take away from the funding available for other areas, the unfortunate reality of it. What I would just leave you with, a local example, what happened in Calhoun County, where they determined their transit needs. They had a pilot program funded by MDOT for 2 years, where they tested the rider demand, found out the rider demands in their county was much higher than many anticipated. If you build it, they will come, and come they did for the transit service they piloted. And so they evaluated what the service would be. They came up with a budget, proposed a robust millage level of 2.66 mils that was approved by their local voters in November of 2024, and they are moving forward with service in Calhoun County. That's an example of what can happen, again, with partnership from the state of Michigan and the local level. So we just want to see at the state level that this can be maintained into the future to meet all those needs. So I'll leave my remarks there and glad to take any questions.
I have one question, John. You mentioned that I think it was 3 or 4 millages you had day before yesterday. How did they do?
We went 2 for 3. So we had,
Okay.
one of the ones everybody was watching was Delta Township here, pretty close by in Eaton County. And that was a new millage. So new millages tend to be a little bit harder sell rather than a renewal or even an increase. So we had one renewal, one increase, and one new millage, and new millage got about 47%. So they're gonna have to evaluate what to do there.
Okay. Very good. Other questions for John? Okay, for your inaugural presentation to the State Transportation Commission, you did a great job. Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you so much for the time.
You bet. All right, we are at full complement now. Commissioner Schultz, thank you for your joining us.
Thank you for your patience. I
Oh,
apologize.
hey.
Feels very Michigander to my boat lift has not worked. But 5 times the guys come out to try to fix the modules to get the boat down, and here we are in November, and they finally fixed it yesterday, and we got it out this morning. So and then I experienced the lovely construction on 96 on the way over. So still working, good weather.
Very good. Thank you. Well, glad you could make it here safely and not all that late, so thank you. Let's go right in to start again at the top of the agenda, and we'll ask our fine director, Brad, to give us a presentation. Brad?
All right, let's see if I'm able to navigate the IT. This looks like not me. All right, I did it. Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners, folks. I have the pleasure today of giving you a very high-level overview of the department's transportation budget for this year. We're very excited that there was a lot of discussion and emphasis and importance put on transportation in general this year. Not going to read the entire slides for you, but it's almost $7.9 billion to transportation. And I will make sure that that isn't just to MDOT. This is for all of transportation that funnels through us to local agencies and whatnot, but also does include the department. The FTEs, the full-time equivalencies there, those are for just the department. And you'll see we did have a net decrease of about 20. Another reminder is an FTE isn't necessarily a person in a seat. It's really a budgeting dollar amount. So it's not like anybody's losing their positions. We're just gonna, that'll be absorbed into our budget. Overall, you're looking at about an increase of just over $1 billion for 2025. In general, this is largely a continuation budget of last year's, except for the new funding package. So the new funding package, again, at a high level, it does repeal the $600 million of income tax that we currently get annually. I think that started in about 2019, and it stepped into that full $600 million, I think in 2021 was when we got that. But that had to be appropriated every year. Through this package, that piece was actually removed. But we did get an increase in the motor fuel tax, which is essentially a move of the amount that you would pay in sales tax and put that into fuel tax. So in perpetuity going forward, that'll be part of the fuel tax calculations and will be indexed to inflation moving forward like the current fuel tax is. It also establishes the Neighborhood Roads Fund, and that is primarily funded from the 24% on marijuana wholesale tax, as well as redirected corporate income tax monies. So, what is the impact of this new $1.1 billion? Big chunk, $100 million going to local critical bridges. So there are local bridge committees around the state. They will be the ones that actually decide where those funds go. Grade separation fund to fund a lot of the local railroad crossing grades to improve safety and efficiency. These next two, John actually mentioned in his presentation on the Comprehensive Transportation Fund and the Infrastructure Projects Authority Fund, going to transit-related items as well. The 172 there is what goes to MDOT, to the State Transportation Fund, and then the remaining that you see there for the county road commissions, as well as the cities and villages that operate their pieces of the transportation network, got a large share as well. So very much a local focus on this, hence the Neighborhood Roads Fund. But a good shot in the arm for transportation going forward. A few other one-time line items in here. Road usage charging, which I think we've talked to the commission about in the past a little bit. This is essentially the idea that as cars become more fuel efficient, as alternate fuels, EVs and such come into the market and they're not paying for gasoline and diesel, we're looking at alternate ways of getting that revenue. Road usage charging would essentially take you from paying per gallon to per mile. Really propulsion agnostic at that point. Whether you're driving an EV, a hydrogen, or an ICE vehicle, you'd pay by the mile. So we're going to be doing the way the language was in the bill was a study and pilot. So I think what a lot of us are looking for is to really pilot something in Michigan that can get us to working towards road usage charging. It's probably not needed today, but we know we're going to need it at some point. Several states are also studying and have pilots, and some have programs implemented. So there'll be a lot of folks that we can learn from. But this is something that we will be working with. We're going to set up a technical committee. We'll be working with local road partners. We have to engage with Secretary of State, DTMB, Treasury, others for the collection pieces as well. So Maritime Port Fund, that's really an extension of a fund that was set up a few years ago to be able to provide grants to ports for works that improve their economics, and the infrastructure itself can be used for green initiatives as well. So, and then the others there, you see the railroad heritage preservation, more money for non-motorized trails, and more monies for our state aeronautics fund as well. So again, that was a very high level of what 2026 will look like for transportation. Do you have any questions?
I only have one comment that I always, you're so eloquent, and I always learn new terms from you. So propulsion agnostic, that's going to be my term of the day that I learned this morning from the director. All kidding aside, are there questions for the director? Commissioner Schultz?
So this is kind of a lifeline, and like we've seen before a couple of years ago when they increased the gas tax. The question is kind of for MDOT, are we looking for ways to reduce inventory where we can? So the turnbacks that have happened in Kalamazoo and Grand Rapids would be an example, or reduce. And it's mostly the M routes; it's not the highway routes, mm-hmm. right? But change it so maybe they're not. The assumption when we have reconstruction is we'll put it back the way it's currently is, and I think there's opportunities. Michigan's population has not been increasing for decades, and do we need the same size roads that we've had? And so, what are those opportunities to reduce the overall costs of the inventory over time?
Yeah, absolutely. I tell folks a lot. For most of my career, we have been very asset focused. We were very strong as a state in asset management, and it was really about the management of the physical asset. And as we've evolved as a transportation organization that's looking more at mobility in general, we need to look at how people are using our system as well. So I think that will be your comments or your questions will be taken into account as we look at our projects. It's not just the physical asset, what does this need, and we're going to replace in kind. It's, okay, yes, we know the physical asset needs work, it's still important, but let's think about how people are using it and who's using it, and make sure that we're building a complete project, i.e. complete streets. So I think your comments are spot on. We are actually very actively right now looking at new funding investment decision models. You know, instead of maybe 100% asset management, which again is very important, you know, how are we modernizing as well? So it's going to be a balance, but yeah, your points are very well taken, and I'm sure that'll be part of our modernization and how people use our system discussions.
Other questions? Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it, Brad. All right, we'll go into our actual business agenda then. The minutes for the July 31st, 2025 commission meeting were sent out in the packet. Are there any questions, comments, corrections? I would entertain a motion.
So offered, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Second.
Commissioner Turner, Commissioner Schultz, second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Same sign. Okay. That passes. Michael, we have within the packet sent out, we do have 4 meeting dates proposed for 2026. And would you like to comment on those?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and read off the dates that have been proposed, Chair Hayes and Commissioners. We have January 29th, that's a joint meeting with the Michigan Aeronautics Commission. Then we have April 16th, July 30th, and November 5th. And those are the dates I present.
Thank you. Did we have a question last January about that meeting jointly with Aeronautics and whether or not that's still required or productive? I just don't remember, vaguely remember a discussion. Anybody? Do you remember?
I
Commissioner
remember
Schultz?
we had the discussion. I think, didn't it come back that we had to have the meeting, that it's required?
Is it annually we have to have it?
Yeah, I think that's what it
Is it?
was, yeah. I could be wrong,
All right.
but I know we questioned it.
Okay, if the department could just double check that, just to make sure. It seems to me like we talked that it only had to be every other year or something like that, but whatever. All the commissioners on the State Transportation Commission and all the Aeronautics commissioners are busy people, so we want to make sure it's a productive meeting. Any discussion on those 4 dates proposed for 2026? If not, I take a motion to approve those.
I so move.
Thank you.
Support.
Commissioner Brown moved, and Commissioner Turner second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay. We have a couple of Transportation Asset Management Council appointments. Michael, do you want to address those?
Yeah, I certainly can. We have, like you said, we have 3 nominations to the TAMC. They're a 3-year term. We have Arthur Green representing MDOT, who also works for MDOT. He's acting engineer of design and manager of the Grand Rapids TSC. His term ends this November, and new term ending in 2028. We also have Kelly Jones representing the Michigan Association of Counties. Her employer is the Ingham County Road Department, where she's the managing director. Her term ends in August. Ron Serber is the final one. He is representing the Michigan Department of Technology, Management and Budget, or DTMB, in the Center for Shared Solutions, where he's the Director of Enterprise Portfolio Management Office. His term ends in October. Their new terms would end November 2028.
Any concerns, comments, or questions? If not, I'd entertain a motion. Commissioner Schultz?
So moved to approve?
Second?
Yes.
Commissioner Turner, thank you. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. That passes. Okay. Now we have an amending resolution for the trunkline bonds that this commission acted on a number of years ago, and so we'll ask Patrick McCarthy to brief us on that, and it will require a motion to extend the deadline. Patrick?
Thank you. Good morning. Before the commission this morning for review and approval is an amendment to the resolution authorizing the issuance and sale of state trunkline bonds for the Rebuilding Michigan program. The amendment will extend the resolution for another calendar year, with the new end date being December 31st, 2026. As background, MDOT has issued 3 tranches of bonds totaling $2.8 billion, with $706 million of remaining authorization from the original resolution. The proceeds from the first 2 tranches have been fully spent, and only 1/3 of the third tranche remains. We anticipate issuing the remaining bonds in late spring or early summer of 2026, depending on the cash flow needs of the program and the market conditions at the time. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Patrick. As commissioners will recall, we've done this before, and it really is it might seem counterintuitive, but really it's a testament to the management of the bonding authority and how MDOT and State Treasury manages the bonding capability to make sure it's done in a manner that makes economic sense and gives us as much advantage as we can in the marketplace regarding bonding. So it's a positive to give more time when the money is needed and when the time is right for issuing bonds. So questions or comments of Patrick? We did offer to all the commission members, just for the public knowledge, that to be briefed on this to make sure that everyone's aware. Bonding is a major action of this commission, and so it's important that all commissioners understand what we do every time we act on bonding, and each one was given the opportunity to be briefed on that. Okay, thank you, Patrick. I would entertain a motion then to authorize this resolution to extend the bonding authority to 12/31/2026.
I apologize if I could interrupt. I
Yes.
believe you need a voice vote on this one, an individual. So just for the record.
Thank you. Commissioner Turner moved, and I think Commissioner Brown supported.
Yes.
Very good. Michael, if you could call the roll.
I certainly can. For the roll call vote on the resolution, Chair Hayes.
Yes.
Commissioner Turner.
Yes.
Commissioner Brown.
Yes.
Commissioner Schultz.
Yes.
Chair, you have 4 votes positive. Resolution passes.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Patrick. We'll move on. Our Office of Commission Audit. Jack, if you would like to make a presentation, please.
Thank you. Good morning, commissioners and director and everybody. As we've worked on the commission policies over the last couple of years, I've not recently discussed OCA's other efforts. So for the fiscal year that just ended, we reviewed 357 cost proposals for reasonableness and mathematical accuracy. We reviewed 194 agreements for provisions that allow MDOT to audit vendors and grantees. We reviewed 179 consultant pre-application packages to help ensure that they have the fundamental processes in place to calculate and bill their costs. We reviewed 13 CPA firms' working papers. We rely on CPA firms to follow standards as they give their opinions on costs claimed by large engineering firms. Recollect that MDOT pays engineering firms for their costs plus a certain percentage of those costs. So knowing that the costs are accurate is a critically important thing. In the last decade, OCA has identified and saved millions in inaccurate costs by keeping a close eye on CPA firms' efforts. We can't calculate the amount of money that we've saved because we exist, however. So we issued 163 attestations for 204 projects and authorizations. And for 113 of the 204, we are on a contractual clock to get the engagements done, and there's no recollection that OCA has ever missed a reporting deadline. We also serve as liaison for 10 Office of the Auditor General engagements. We help ensure that auditors understand what the engineers are saying and that engineers understand what the auditors are saying. And if nothing else, both sides can agree with the facts if they don't agree with the auditor's conclusions. We try to explain perspectives to both entities. In a consultant-like capacity, we answered or addressed 126 miscellaneous subjects and questions, including financial topics, audit methods, and risk-related questions from MDOT, other states, and engineering firms regarding, for example, interpretations of federal regulations. We participated with other states in efforts to share best practices and audit techniques to help stretch the taxpayers' dollars. We belong to and contribute to all of the AASHTO accounting and auditing subcommittees. So in total, OCA issued nearly 1,100 work products, some taking a few hours, some taking months. And OCA has again received the highest peer review grade just this last year. Happens every 3 years. More than half of our professional staff are CPAs, and some have other certifications such as certified fraud examiners and certified internal auditors. Several are MBAs. And one of our CPAs is also a mechanical engineer who brings a lot to the table in our discussions about engineering business processes. So OCA cannot claim to have civil engineering, aeronautical, transit, or rail knowledge. However, we do have expertise in assessing the effectiveness and efficiency of processes, and we enjoy contributing to how MDOT considers its processes. Providing these considerations provides OCA staff with a great deal of job fulfillment. I know it is in my case, that is very much a very fulfilling job. So if you have any questions, I'm here, but otherwise, thank you so much for your time.
Other questions of Jack? I would just comment that just for understanding that it is the Office of Commission Audit, so that Jack and his function, if you will, reports to this commission. And though the commissioners themselves may not hear specifics about all that he just outlined, when there are matters that are of significance that he feels we should be aware of, he does contact me, and we have discussions about such matters. It's quiet behind the scenes, but it's really unbelievable how much he and his folks contribute to the to a sound use of state funds on behalf of the taxpayers. And so I give him personally, as the leader of that office and of his staff, high marks for doing an excellent job, very quietly, day in and day out. Probably not quietly within the department, but and that's tough. I mean, auditors are. We've all been involved in organizations where there are auditors, and it's always kind of a grind. But I think they do an excellent job, and I think Brad and the leadership of the department would echo that. So thank you, Jack, and our appreciation to your staff for all they do every day.
Well, thank you for the kind words.
Okay, that really is most of the commission business, but we do have our oversight and information that we seek as a commission. So we'll call Patrick back up, and if you could go over the bid letting quarterly bid letting summary. That's a tongue twister. Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you. Good morning again. The first document in your packet, which begins on page 27 through page 54, is titled the Quarterly Bid Letting Summary, and that documents all items MDOT for the fourth quarter of fiscal year 25, which was July through September. The second document, which is on pages 55 through 57, is titled the Bid Letting Items for fiscal year 23 through 25 for the fourth quarter. And that documents various trends in the bid letting process, including the number of projects let, the number of single bidders, and the number of all bids rejected, as well as payments made to contractors for that period of fiscal year 23 through 25 for the fourth quarter. The third document, which is on page 58, titled the Michigan Department of Transportation Procurement Card Fiscal Year 2025 Fourth Quarter, documents the number of procurement card transactions and the total amount paid against procurement cards for the fourth quarter of 2025, as well as identifies procurement card transactions that are currently being monitored. Do you have any questions on these documents?
Other questions of Patrick? Patrick, as I look through you know how much I like these charts, I really do. And I do. When I think back to 14 years ago, these charts were not provided, and it was kind of mind-boggling to try to go through the figures if you're not, involved in this on a daily basis. But I didn't notice any outliers this time. Is there anything that in there that we should note?
No, it was a pretty standard
routine,
quarter.
yeah.
Yes.
Any questions of Patrick?
No, just noted that they're monitoring the Amazon purchases.
Yes, we pay close attention to those. So,
We appreciate that, but buy local. I just listened to that on the way in about buying local. Okay, thanks,
Thank you.
Patrick. Appreciate that. D. Parker, would you talk about the bid justification summary, fourth quarter?
Good morning, Commissioners. I would like to draw your attention to pages 60 to 97, titled the Quarterly Bid Justification Summary for the fourth quarter of 2025. Within those pages, you will see our 2025 fiscal year program graph dating back to October of last year through September of 2025. You will see scattered charts and graphs showing where bids fell within the target range of plus or minus 10%. You will also see the justification, rejection memos, and reports at the end there for the fourth quarter from July 2025 through September of 2025. Again, that's pages 60 through 97. Do you have any questions, comments, or concerns regarding those pages?
Any questions of Mr. Parker? Commissioner Schultz.
I just had one question on single bidders. It seems like a lot of them are in the North region, and whether or not you can talk about that, and then are those costs any different if that's the only game in town compared to competition in the other regions?
Competition is always a tough thing to do, especially up in the North and Superior region, because again, it's all about location, 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 location. And so that's something that, again, we're always looking into that or looking at that information there. We do not have, a lot of bidders up there. A lot of our contractors are in the southeast, lower part of the peninsula. And so, of course, it's we're always looking and welcoming more contractors, pre-qualified contractors to kind of do work up north to help with those bid prices and things along those lines. Again, competition. And so it's really tough because again, working in Ispremy versus working in Escanaba, or working in Traverse City versus working in Carson City, it takes you a while to travel from point A to point B. And I think a lot of that goes into the business mindset of those who want to have businesses and work for MDOT up north, in the North region and or Superior region as well. And so, like I said, that's always tough, but it's definitely a business decision. And the traveling from one end to the other end of the state, up north, it takes you 3-4 hours just to get across. And then you have to look at staffing resources as well. especially if you're looking at a job that's, 2, 3, 4 months long, where folks are going to stay at, hotels, opportunities and things like that. So it's definitely a challenge as far as up north versus in Detroit versus Kalamazoo, Grand Rapids area as well. Hopefully answered your question.
It's historically been a challenge. Has it gotten any worse, or is it about the same?
I've seen single bidders up north, even when I was up in finance, 10, 12 years ago. So it just continues to be a challenge. Again, it's all about location.
Yeah.
And businesses.
Not getting worse, but not getting better.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, how about going right into the real estate services section then, Dee?
Okay, yes, sir. For your information, I would like to draw your attention to page 98, titled Commission Summary Real Estate Services section, Disposal of Real Estate Property Interests. You will see a list, well, in this case, a property that is being sold, disposal property is being sold from the department to that individual. So again, this is just for FYI purposes in regards to the real estate disposal of this property has been purchased from MDOT.
Any questions regarding that one transaction?
Yeah, that's rare.
Yeah. All right, thank you very much, Dee, appreciate
You're
it.
welcome, sir.
Jason, finalized construction contracts.
Good morning, Commission. Happy to be here on a beautiful, crisp Michigan day in the fall. Weather has been good for our construction projects this year, although some would say there were some periods of drought and less rain, but this year we got a lot of work done. We continue to work this week. End of our season is right before opening season for the hunters, so two big converging events coming up. But anyway, I digress. So Exhibit B, MDOT projects for July, August, and September. 48 projects totaling approximately $268 million were finalized. 7 projects were more than 10% over their original contract amount, and 28 projects came in under their original contract amount. Final monthly costs were respectively 1.16, 4.9, and negative 1.5 when compared to their original contract value. Calendar year 25 is averaging 2.68% over the original contract amount. And I do want to point out, because that percentage is a little higher, and 4.9 was pretty substantial for August. And I looked up the projects. There was one project that was substantially over, because when we went out to do the work, it was scheduled to be an overlay project, a bridge deck overlay. And once they got working, we discovered we needed to replace the entire deck. And that project went from about 1.5 million to just over 4 million. So that is a really substantial change. That big of a change can obviously affects that month, but it also kind of affects the year. We had another substantial project in August where the soils were discovered to be a lot worse than expected in a longer area than we had thought. So that was close to $1 million over, so that also feeds that. So those two projects, being quite considerable, can impact our percentage in the bigger picture. Just as an example, because I know there's been past discussions on the percentage isn't exactly where it has always been, typically around 0, maybe a little under, maybe a little over. We're hovering a little higher of late because of some conditions that have been discovered after we've started work in the field. And for local agency projects for those same months, there was 62 projects totaling approximately $82 million. 5 projects were more than 10% over, and 40 of their projects came in under the original contract value. And we've got 5 MDOT projects and 8 local agency projects on the current exhibit this month.
Appreciate you anticipating my question about the the variation there and what the outliers were. That's great. The question, do you think we're the only state that has an actual benchmark point in our construction year that's based on the opening day of deer season?
It could have been a factor. I don't know what the hunting seasons are in other snow area states. I think it's been, personally, I think it's because a lot of the construction workers are also hunters, and it's a good time for them to disappear, so we knew that was just going to be more efficient that
Yeah.
way. But
And it's actually a case too, isn't it, that the asphalt plants kind of start shutting down on November 15th?
they do. They'll hang around a little longer, dependent on the weather. Those are very dependent on the weather. They'll usually not open till the first week in May because the weather's so temperamental. But in the fall, if they get decent weather, they'll keep going. But it gets very expensive to run those in cold weather. So they'll want to close as soon as possible. And they have the labor excitement too, with staff wanting to be enjoying the Michigan hunting season. So.
Right. Any questions of Jason? All right. Thank you again, Jason. Appreciate
you.
it. All right. One of the other reasons we definitely needed a quorum today was, other than the bonding resolution, we also have to, as part of our responsibility, approve the 5-year transportation program. So, Michael, would you please walk us through that?
Yes, good morning, Commissioners, Director, everyone. MDOT is pleased to present its draft final 5-year transportation program covering fiscal years 2026 through 2030. This is an action item in your agenda, as you just noted, Mr. Chair, and we will be requesting your approval to proceed with finalizing the document for transmittal to the Michigan Legislature as well as the Senate and House fiscal agency offices by March 1st of 2026 as required under state statute. The information presented to you this morning will follow on that presented to you back in July, and we will be focusing on investments as of October 1st, 2025. So this is a snapshot in time, as well as the results of our public comment outreach conducted between August 1st and September 1st of this year. So total investments over the next 5 years, we're looking at $16.1 billion. We see $10.7 billion of that in the highway program, and combining the pie slices there for bus and marine, rail and ports and aeronautics, $5.4 billion in multimodal. The $10.7 billion highway program covers everything on the trunkline side of the program. So I think we all know that's M routes, I routes, and US routes. The bulk of that is dedicated toward road and bridges. So that's everything from preliminary engineering to right-of-way to construction. And it's largely focused on attaining our state of good repair goals, or at least trying to move the marker toward attaining those goals. A part of this is also routine maintenance. That's everything from street sweeping to snow plowing, trucks, facilities that are required for proceeding with those activities. We also have system safety, management, and operations. So that's the things that are required to maintain safety on the system. So pavement markings, signage, signals, everything is included there. Roadside facilities, that's things like rest areas. Actually, wetland pre-mitigation is included in there as well. And then at the bottom, you see additional state and federally funded programs. That's kind of an umbrella category for things like training. The Transportation Alternatives Program and recreational trails are also included in that category. So we see the $10.7 billion highway program by year here, split between the preservation program and routine maintenance. We covered routine maintenance here back. That's $2.6 billion over the next 5 years. So we've got about $8.1 billion dedicated toward preservation of the system. Also included in this figure, again, as of October 1st, 2025, we've got about $35 million in bond financing in fiscal year 26. So just a little bit too small in the bar chart to show. So just making sure that you're aware of that. So looking at 2026 specifically for the highway program, we've got $2.6 billion anticipated investment. So again, the bulk of that is in repairing and rebuilding roads. We also have bridges in here as well. Just a note on that, that does include a construction cost estimate for the Blue Water Bridge at $90 million in this year. So that was actually obligated in previous years, so we're showing the value of that within this investment as it continues to move forward. Trunkline modernization, that is the I-94 modernization project, so that is moving forward with $189 million in fiscal year 26. We have $504 million in routine maintenance. That's set in the governor's executive recommended budget, so we incorporate that into this number. And then again, system safety management and operations, $211 million this year, and then $123 million in additional state and federally funded programs. Again, things like the TAP program, Transportation Alternatives, rec trails, and training. So, of course, we include the multimodal programs in here as well. As I mentioned in the beginning, we're looking at $5.4 billion over the next 5 years. We've got 3 tables set up. I know this is a lot of numbers, so I'll just highlight here. We've got $3.4 billion for bus and marine. The bulk of that is a local bus operating and transit capital. $667 million of that is in fiscal year 2026. Passenger and freight rail here, moving to the top right table, just under $1.1 billion over the next 5. And pretty much the bulk of that, like with bus and marine, we've got infrastructure, so capital and operations, about $1 billion over the next 5 and $149 million. A lot of that is things like Amtrak and Michigan's 3 rail routes. So there's a lot of work that goes into maintaining and improving those. And then aeronautics over the next 5, just over $900 million, and then $240 million in fiscal year 2026. So wrapping up highway and multimodal, we're looking at a $3.6 billion investment in fiscal year 2026. We covered these totals, but again, $2.6 billion in highway, $667 million in bus and marine, $160 million in rail and ports, and $240 million in the aeronautics program. Part of the presentation back at the end of July was attaining your approval to proceed with public comment. So we did conduct that from August 1st to September 1st. We use a variety of outreach methods based on our knowledge of what people respond to at a statewide level. So that includes everything from posting information online. There is a mobile version of the 5-year program page and MDOT website. We use a tool called the Michigan Transportation Program Portal, which integrates together information about the program and an interactive map where people can go to where they are. They can search by their zip code, by their neighborhood, city, and find projects that are happening around them and information about those projects, and click a nifty little link at the bottom to comment directly on that project. We do a lot of social media outreach as well. This has probably been one of our biggest successes in more recent outreach methods for the 5-year program, where we're highlighting specific things about what is included in this year's program and really encouraging people to participate in the process. So results from this year, I'm very happy to report about a 3-fold increase in comments that we received over last year. That was at 274 comments. That was for the 25 to 29 program. This year we received 831 comments. A lot of that was driven again by our social media outreach. We see impressions here increased quite a bit. Impressions is basically when someone sees a post that's made, that's tracked on Facebook. So, you know, as you're scrolling, counters are going and counting everything that you look at. So we had just under 1 million views with that. So we reached a lot of people this year, about 10% of Michigan's population. Engagements remain relatively flat. That includes things like likes, shares, and comments. So we saw far more comments this year through social media, but about the same level of likes and shares. And then we count how many people have visited the 5-year program and transportation program portal pages as well. So we saw a small increase in that, which means people are interested in the program, they want more information about it, they're going to the MDOT website, and they're participating in the processes in which we make available to them. So we saw some key engagement themes emerge as well. A lot of the projects, a lot of the comments were project specific, so that means it was either through the program portal or we counted it as something that is in the program itself currently that they commented on through social media. So we saw 695 comments directed toward projects, or 83.6%. And we see far less, but still in other categories, but we do count comments where people are talking about road, bridge, and other facilities that are not currently in the program. So we track all of this, try to summarize it for regions and TSCs to better understand what the public feelings and sentiments are on things that are in and that could be in the program. So we saw some interest in financial and investment strategies as well. Everything from, you know, hooray for MDOT to boo to MDOT in general. That's a reality of public comment, as we all know. Nobody gets into this profession, I don't think, to get a pat on the back sometimes. So multimodal transportation was something that was of interest as well. So that's, you know, routes, you know, frequencies, anything related to public transportation people comment on. Complete Streets Mobility saw one comment that was related to a crossing at a particular project that's not currently in the program that was previously. So someone expressed some concern over that. And again, 831 comments this year. We pay close attention to how people engage, not just through social media and desktop and mobile, but also kind of their locations as well. So we use all this information to try to improve the process on a continuous basis from year to year. And with that, I'll go ahead and wrap up. Just to, again, our action request is to proceed with finalizing the document. We do have some small changes we need to make prior to having it ready to go to the legislature. Just a lot of routine stuff and making it ready for print and ADA accessible. So we will be transmitting that to the legislature, state budget director, and House and Senate fiscal agencies by March 1st, 2026. Again, we're required to do that by state statute. And with that, I'll take any questions if you have them.
Thank you, Michael. Are there questions? Commissioner Schultz?
I have a question on the community engagement. When you say comments, is that someone commenting on Facebook and putting it in the comments, or is it them clicking a link and going into a survey?
Yep. It's both of those.
It's both? Okay.
Yeah, it's both. And specifically for social media, there are comments we do count and comments we don't count.
Yeah.
So we do count comments that can be attributed to a project or something in the document, but if it's something like a commenter responding to another commenter, like, you know, whatever that might be, that is not counted.
So, and I apologize, I didn't have time to click on the link that you have on the sheet to go into it, but I think some of the more interesting information would be by region, and if there's themes that come up about certain locations or certain projects. So you mentioned there's a lot of project-specific comments, but in the data reporting, it's interesting, but it's not super informative.
Yeah.
Versus if it was regionally and there were specific project comments, kind of if there were themes within that,
Right.
that people were providing feedback on, I think it would be helpful.
Absolutely. And we do break it down by statewide or region, depending on whether it's a project or if it's something directed toward an initiative that is region-specific. And it follows the same themes and topics we identify across. So the big roll-up and the region and statewide roll-up connect to each other in that way.
Do you describe specific projects, though?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
In a situation like this, Michael, you probably don't respond to each comment. Like the communications folks do so well on Facebook, but you don't, on 835 or whatever it is comments, you don't respond to every one of those, do you?
On social media, if there's a specific question or a concern of some kind, our team does respond to every
Okay.
one of those comments. Through the portal, commenters click whether or not they would like a response or not. So they can click yes or no on that. We do respond to all of those. And we respond to every single email that we get as well. If there's not a specific question, we at minimum let them know we received their comment and it will be counted.
Oh, okay. I think the department does a great job of responding to the information and/or misinformation that's out. A comment here just in the last week about spending $24 billion on a bridge, which was kind of fun to read about. And fortunately, the department cleared that up and said, no, it's not billion, it's a million. But it's always good to respond to the public, even when it's a bit confrontational. It's just it's important. We all work for the public. So, any other questions or comments for Michael? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the 2026 to 2030 5-year transportation program plan.
I so move.
Commissioner Brown?
Support.
Okay, and Commissioner Turner supported. Is there any further discussion? We don't need to roll call on this, so we'll just do a voice vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, you have your approval,
Thank you.
Michael. Thank you
And-
for everybody's hard work on this.
Yep, we'll see you next year.
Okay. Next on the agenda is our friends with the Transportation Asset Management Council, and Ryan Buck will address us on their annual report.
Thank you, Chair Hayes. Good morning, everyone. You know, when I saw Director Weifert come up earlier and get his own slideshow up, I recognized that this wasn't a Mac, which is what I've been using for the last 10 years. So bear with me. That's not it. Hey, I think that was. There we go. There we go. That looks familiar. All right, again, good morning. All right, so I appreciate the opportunity to present the Transportation Asset Management Council's 2024 Road and Bridges Annual Report. This has been something that we've been working on since the beginning of the council. We've been a council for more than 20 years. We have some council alums in the room as well. Getting into it, though, I'd like to, since this is my inaugural presentation to the State Transportation Commission, I also want to take just a moment to introduce myself. Ryan Buck, again, the chair of the Transportation Asset Management Council. I've been on the council for 4 years, but I was also in the car the very first year that we started doing ratings with the PACER system in Michigan. And so I've been involved with asset management in the state for more than 20 years now. Our council, there are some members who've been there since the beginning and some who are very new, and some who are in this room right now. But our member representatives come from the County Road Association, DTMB, the Michigan Association of Counties, the Michigan Association of Regions, our rural partners, MDOT, the Michigan Municipal League, the Michigan Township Association, and the Michigan Transportation Planning Association, who I represent. The council right now is in the process of updating our strategic plan, but our mission remains the same, and that's to develop and support excellence in managing Michigan's transportation assets. And largely that comes through the sharing of information, the collection of data, and analyzing it. One of our long-term members describes the council as the arbiter of good data, and that's something that we take seriously. Looking at our budget, it's now $2.3 million. It had been steady for a while, but we recently received an annual increase, and that largely went to an expansion of the regional program, which is fundamentally the data collection portion of what we do. We've also been able to significantly increase the portion of non-federal aid roads that we're doing data collection on. See 17% there is shown as the central data agency. Taking all this data, collecting it, making it available to the public takes a lot of resources and time, and we appreciate their assistance on that. And training and education. 15% of our budget goes directly to educating locals, elected officials, and we're very thankful for our relationship with Michigan Tech for that. Looking at the report highlights, and I apologize for the very small font that we use in here. I'll try to work on that when I come back next year. But we now have 4 years in a row that the roads in good condition in the state are what they were 20-some years ago when I first got in the car. And so that's good that we've finally gotten back there, but the Transportation Asset Management Council, founded more than 20 years ago, was sort of rooted in this idea that we needed to show the value of the system, that it was being treated with an appropriate mix of fixes, and that despite that, more revenue, more money was needed to increase the quality of the system. That had focused on the federal aid system. It now, one of our focuses, one of the things that we hear from locals across the state is the importance of measuring the pavement quality on the non-federal aid system. And thanks to the increase in our budget, we've been able to significantly increase that. And our forecasting has improved because of the great set of data that we've collected over the last 20 years. Eric Costa from MDOT is fantastic with the information that he collects. We're able to see what has worked in terms of investments and how that relates to pavement quality in the future. We have expanded the assets that we're looking at. It's not simply roads and bridges anymore. It's also culverts, it's also signals. But also important to note that the conditions of the bridge system across the state continue to decline, something that we're aware of. Again, apologize for the size of the print on this. The 2024 paved federal aid road condition, the map that is on the left shows the significance of the data collection effort that comes over the course of a year or two. And you see here that we've now got 28% of the roads in good condition, 40% in fair, but now 32% in poor. While these numbers have been improving over recent years, we still see that we have room to go. Looking back to the work that I mentioned Eric Costa has done, you see a big change here when we went from the estimated numbers in 2020, which was a result of the lack of data collection around the COVID pandemic, moving to 2022 and 2024, significant increase in the good mileage and a significant decrease in the poor mileage, which sounds good, and in terms of overall system quality is good news. But when we got new money from the state, new money that came in through the federal government following COVID, a lot of money was put towards reconstruction efforts. And that's obviously a part of the mix of fixes. But with transportation, road asset management, we do want to focus on maintaining those roads that haven't fallen yet into poor condition and get them back into good condition. The non-federal data collection, you can see here it's not statewide. We don't have a complete set of data, but it is expanding. And overall, the system is not as in good condition as the federal aid system or the state system. But we are getting more and more information on this and hoping to use it to help local agencies across the state in the future. And you can see this is sort of the result of the increase in our allocation of funds and the regions and MPO's allocation of funds locally in collecting non-federal aid data. The purple is newly collected information in 2024. The condition of the bridges remains a concern. You can see the relationship here between local road bridges owned by states, counties and municipalities, as well as the condition of the MDOT bridges. And here you see the sort of disturbing potential trend moving forward, an increase of roads in poor and severe condition and a decrease in good condition. Another part of the information that we collect is investment data from local agencies, and so this is all collected through the IRT, or the Internet Reporting Tool. A note that I'll make on this in the following slide for 2024, because of the timing, because of when people input this information, that is not correct. We finish our annual report in April, and so the information is only as good as when we had it. And so there isn't necessarily a decrease in the cost of improvements that went into roads or in bridges. One of the newer requirements that we're involved with has to do with the transportation asset management plans, and that's a requirement for all counties in the state, as well as the cities with over 100 miles. They have to meet there's I think 7 criteria that they need to meet within their asset management plans, and the Asset Management Council is required to make that determination on whether or not they've submitted a compliant plan, and then provide that information to the state, at which point the state can make the decision to withhold funds. The good news is that this slide is outdated and the funds are not being withheld. The ice storm in the north was certainly a big challenge for many people, huge emergency, and so I'm glad to report that the money is not being withheld from the counties. When you deal with the condition of the roads in the state of Michigan, you end up in the news. So we've included just a couple of links for you to peruse on your own time. But thank you. Any questions?
Thank you, Ryan. Are there questions? Commissioner Schultz?
Of course, I have a question. When we had the County Road Association present, I had asked about percent good and fair targets that they use, and the response was 90%. And having gone through an exercise to understand what that means, that's a ridiculous amount of money that we'll never have to be able to get to 90% for those types of roads. And and highways are different, right? But for the non-highway, federal highways that MDOT has there been discussions on kind of what's a reasonable or achievable percent good and fair on those roads, and then how would that affect expectations for funding?
I don't want to speak for the state, but as it relates to the Asset Management Council, how we want to present information, it's been a huge challenge. The quality of the state system versus the local federal aid system is different. The attainable goals, regardless of any feasible funding amount, are going to be different. That's something that we've struggled with because we want to have that elevator pitch, especially when we're talking with the Infrastructure Council and talking with the legislature of what we need to get to the point that we'd like to be at. It's something that we've been talking about for years, and I think we're finally beginning to make progress on that because we want to be able to express to you and to the legislature where we'd like to be, but getting that message straight is taking a lot of time for us.
Do you have a plan to kind of chart out how to get there?
I'll say that our Vice Chair, Bill McCarthy, this is one of his sort of passion projects, and I don't think I could give you specifics other than it's coming up on our agendas and something that we're actively talking about. And if you have any suggestions, I'd be happy to hear them, because we've just got so much information that gets parsed out so many different ways across so many different levels of government, that I'm certainly happy to listen to ways that you'd recommend. We could get the most value from sort of condensing that into an easy, digestible message.
I have an example I can send to you.
That'd be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions of Ryan?
And we've got a couple extra copies of this over at the front desk, too.
Okay.
Thank
Very
you.
good. Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate it. That concludes our agenda. I would open the floor for public comment. Michael, have we received any advance interest?
We have not received any public comments in advance.
Is there anyone here today in the room that would like to address the commission under public comments? I don't see anyone, so our next scheduled meeting, according to the schedule that we adopted earlier in this meeting, is January 29th of 2026. And if any further business to come before the commission? If not, we are adjourned.